Here.
Don Walsh. Here. David Belver. John Mylone. Here. Fiona Pearson. Here. Tricia Kramer. Here. Greg Wolf. Dina Allard. Here. And Jim Jinks. Here. A quorum is present.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Before we get into the regular agenda tonight, I just wanted to mark actually a couple sad occasions. Since we were together in February, 2 members of our Town of Cheshire family passed away, and I'm going to give you the 2 individuals, but then I'd ask for a moment of silence in recognition of those. The first is Cheshire Police Department dispatcher Sharon Imbert, who worked for the town and passed away towards the end of February. And then we just learned of the passing of John Knott, who served as 35 years as the town attorney for Cheshire. So I would ask that you join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. First up tonight is public communication and a recognition of the Cheshire Lions Club's 75th anniversary. If our Lions members would like to come up to the podium, I have something I would like to read to you, and then if you would come swing by and receive the congratulations of the council, that would be outstanding. Right over to the podium here. That'd be great. So this is a certificate of recognition recognizing the Cheshire Lions Club's 75th anniversary. Whereas the Cheshire Lions Club has been serving the Cheshire community for 75 years, and whereas the group has dedicated itself for 75 years to the promotion of service, civic engagement, and community betterment, enriching the lives of individuals through its charitable contributions, fundraisers, and projects. And whereas the Cheshire Lions Club, along with town departments, have partnered on well-attended and appreciated community events. Now therefore, I, Peter J. Talbot, Mayor and Chair of the Town Council, on behalf of the Town Council and all the citizens of Cheshire, hereby offer our congratulations and sincere appreciation to the Cheshire Lions Club on its 75th anniversary. We are grateful for its caring presence in this community. Dated at Cheshire, Connecticut, this 11th day of March, 2025. Congratulations. If anyone would like to say something, you certainly are entitled to. Otherwise, Anthony,
Thank
please.
you, Mr. Chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, people in the audience tonight, thank you for celebrating our 75th with us tonight. This is a very important thing. The Lions Club has been a major civic organization in this town since 1949. And we really pride ourselves on being involved in our community and supporting our community. Cheshire has been in our blood for many years. And we all want you to know that we stand ready to serve our town. Our motto is "We serve," although our international mission is "Sight," because we are part of the largest service organization in the world, which is Lions International. And we're always looking for new members. And the Lions Club is ready to serve the town for the next 75 years and beyond. Thank you so much. I think we're good. Thank you. But I get a shot at the, yeah, let me get a shot.
Why don't you come on up and come around, and then we'll stage it.
Absolutely. Bill, if you guys would just, if you guys would just face us, please. Yeah, I'm not recording. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay, I can move it.
Oh, no, that's, you're fine, you're fine. Yeah. I know you guys have important business tonight, so. This is really good, yeah, thank you, guys. All right, ready? We're gonna do 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna do another one here. Hang in there. That's great. 1, 2, 3. And one more, and I'm done. 1, 2, 3. Thank you all. Good job.
Thank you, and again, congratulations. It is always great to recognize our very important civic organizations, and that is certainly a milestone anniversary. Which brings us to item B of number 3, public comment. Anyone that would like to address the council tonight may do so. To the podium to my right, your left. Please state your name, your full address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Diane Schaefer. I've been a resident of Cheshire since 1996. And I attended my very first town council meeting in December because I was shocked to hear how dogs are being neglected and abused under our town's watch, and wanted to hear what was being done to correct the situation. I only heard our taxpayer-funded attorney say how he couldn't comment because of legal issues, but refusing to answer non-related questions. And then January comes by, and both the attorney and the chairman also say no comment, unfortunately, while the evidence of the abuse piled up. And in February meeting, same thing, no answers for anything, just more excuses. But what got me really upset was the completely patronizing and dismissive tone the council used towards the people in the room. I mean, if it wasn't for the many unpaid hours all the citizens in the room here applied to this animal abuse case, all of this abuse and neglect by the town would have never been made public. It would have been business as usual with no one held accountable for these egregious actions, with the public unaware of the evilness committed. Instead of holding the bad actors accountable, you're directing your scorn and your angers at these concerned ladies and gentlemen, myself included. Please show the town you really care about what goes on with our public officers. While you ignore our pleas for help, you're potentially putting other animals' lives at risk and the town itself at risk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Don Falk, 23 South Pond Circle, Cheshire. I'm here to thank you once again for naming the school for Barney. Excellent job, really, of the veterans, and all of us appreciate that. Barney is thrilled and looking forward to coming up to visit us. Our Veterans Committee to the council, new to us a little bit, and new to me, but we've talked to him. We've kind of established May 30th, if we could. I'm not sure how we, work all this out, but we want to work it out with you. That's a date that he said he could be up here. We haven't finalized his flights and all that yet, but we anticipate doing that. He's looking forward at that time, or we are, to a signing ceremony out on the site if we could. And he'd love to visit with some of the students. We've talked about Cheshire High School. Dodd, the principal at St. Bridget's, would look forward to having him come in. Sounds like we've got more than he can accomplish in a day, but we don't have anything finalized at this point, but we'll continue to keep in touch. And if we get him to come up a little earlier on Thursday, you know, all the more time to be around Cheshire. But again, thanks very much for all you've done, and we'll keep in touch.
Mr. Falk, thank you. And as soon as you do get stuff finalized, if you can send it either to Noel or send it to myself, I'll make sure that the full council has it, and we can kind of block off some sort of a time frame, because if Barney's coming, then we would love to see him, so.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely coming, and just a matter of working with my son Jeff, get his airline flight arranged and telling him all the things we're planning for him. I didn't mention, if not, a luncheon the fire department has said they will provide the facility, and Jack Kasner said he would talk to somebody named Sean about funding it, but we'll see how that works. But the VFW, and because of the Brave, are going to participate. We anticipate paying his way up here, the airfare, and anything to do with accommodations while he's here. So we'll be talking to you.
Excellent. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Hello, my name is Jim Block, 60 Contour Drive, Cheshire. I've been here before. I was hoping not to have to be here again, but to start on a different note, I wanted to say that the work with the February ice storm that the Public Works did was terrific. They cut trees, they worked to cut trees, clear roads. Police were taking people who were stranded to their homes. I know some people that were rescued by the police when their cars were stopped. The fire department was out constantly on bad wire situations, fire situations on the road, and it was a situation where everybody worked together and admirable. Sadly, I'm here for something less admirable, though. Mayor Talbot, you mentioned last week that you'd have last month, no further comment until the investigation is concluded. Are we to conclude the result of this investigation, paid for by these residents, will be made public? Do you have a timeline for this? If I knew and believed this would be an open process, which I am not confident will be, I would not be here tonight. I would not be wasting my time, and more importantly, I would not be wasting the time of all you good people who now have to wait another hour after testimony to get home to your families. But this has been a secretive whole thing from the start. From my first call to the town manager, Sean Kimball, in October, I think it was, he would not even confirm or deny whether the pictures I saw on Box 61 were true. Could not confirm and deny. Since then, no council member has been allowed to talk. I addressed the council, but Mr. Talbot, it seems like it's more your call. I see an email I got, copy of from November 20th, from the No Good Deed Goes Unpunished department. This is what I meant by you're not going to satisfy these emails with a generic legal response. Please do not engage any further after you send an initial response. Silencing the council, it looks like it was just sent to the Democrats in the council. I don't know how all that works. But I realize there are things that can't be said, but you guys have chosen to say nothing. Everything has been met with silence. Last month, you seemed a little annoyed that you've been here 3 months or 4 months listening to protests. I'm not a guy for hashtags. I agree with you online. People should not be saying nasty stuff. Online brings out the worst of people. But you have left us no choice but to litigate this whole thing on Facebook, because here you're talking into an empty void. You hear people say they're not getting responses. Emails were sent to this council a long time ago, so everybody's culpable to some degree. A long time ago, troubles were brewing at Animal Control, and you guys all read the emails, and the decision was made to say nothing. You've demanded silence from the council. You've talked about, actually it seems like you're hiding behind the town attorney. Everything looks like it was written by the town attorney. I didn't vote for the town attorney. I didn't vote for the town manager, who knows everything about going on in town, but somehow didn't supervised animal control. He
Time,
probably
Mr.
thought he had a
Clark.
police, I'm sorry?
Time.
Okay. I'll see you next month.
Hi, Casey Downs, 250 Patton Drive in Cheshire, and I'm just here to thank the town council for hiring an independent investigation into this. I trust that you're doing what you need to do. You're taking care of business, and I look forward to the investigation when it's done. I don't feel like there's anything secretive going on. I think that you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Downs.
Jean Melendez, 1425 Waterbury Road. I know people ask us why we keep coming when the town won't talk to us, and who are we talking to? And I just wanted to say that we come to read this information. We know the town has it. We come to talk to the people. Hopefully they'll look at YouTube and read the newspaper, because this information isn't out there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new reports that are on the website that DOAG has released, including a report about Tiny. I only have 3 minutes, so I can't say all of it, but I think it's really important to talk about what happened to Tiny. I have a pathology report. It took a bit to get this necropsy. And although I can't read all of it, it said that Tiny had generalized demodetic mange, which was gotten at the pound since it had been there for 2 years. If you look at how that happens, a dog can be immunosuppressed from stress, from a multitude of other things. What struck us is this dog was very thin. It says thin nutritional condition, chronic gingivitis with tooth loss. Why that is important: when the dog first came in, and I'm just talking about Tiny, it had a level 2 dental problem. After that, just a short amount of time, the vets do speak about, dental disease was level 4. The dog was not able to eat, and the dog was being fed hard food versus wet food. What's really striking is that there were a series of questions asked by Dr. Anderson, asked by Tanya, who is at Department of Agriculture, of Dr. Anderson. Could Tiny have been saved? Could treatment have helped Tiny? And the short answer was yes. If Tiny had had the appropriate medical treatment, Tiny could have been saved. And the same conversation about Lily. I don't really need to say more. I do want to say that as more and more evidence comes out, it's so clear that there was so much neglect going on. And I asked the town council, I've said this before, I know you're doing an investigation, but as a taxpayer, my heart says, what more do you need to know? DOAG did a really comprehensive investigation, so much testimony from so many people. We are just devastated by the non-response from the town council and by what has happened to these animals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Holly Fontaine. I'm from Vernon, Connecticut, 35 Elizabeth Lane. Just a little note on a few months that I ran across some of the reports. In May of 2024, Tiny was brought to the vet by ACO Erickson, and he had severe dental disease, dry eye. His paws were swollen, the fur on his paws were stained, and the skin was grossly stained. Tiny was given medicated bath, antibiotic injection, and discharged with instructions to follow up with his regular doctor. 2 weeks later, the dog was euthanized. And when ACO Erickson saw him, he entered the pound, and Tiny was acting strange. His eyes were crusted shut. With discharge, he tried to clean them, but the fur was coming off. He informed ACO Leeler, who again told him to put Tiny in a crate and put him in his office. A week later, Tiny was brought to the vet. but his eye had been abscessed and another abscess on his jaw, skin issues, pancreatic issues, and the vet said Tiny needed to be euthanized. He also noted, he told ACO Leeler, Tiny could not eat dry food, but ate the wet soft food and very well, with he provided video proof of, and although telling ACO Leeler Tiny needed the wet food, she continued to feed him the dry hard food, which remained untouched. ACO Erickson also noted that in the year he worked there, the dogs were groomed only once, and that was in May of 2024. Kennels were cleaned with bleach, but did so while the dogs remained in the kennels and the beds, which were soaking wet. He stated while working with her in that 1 year, there was a clear lack of care, no attention to the dogs or their needs, and no compassion at all for animals. He then stated his last day would be in August 2024, and he was very concerned that when he left, things would get worse, and volunteers were afraid of Leeler, so they would not ever speak up. Meanwhile, Mel, while grooming dogs, noted Leeler hosing down the kennels again with the dogs inside, and she had said that this was disastrous and that you should not do this with the dogs. She reached out to the town council attorney, informing him of the conditions of the dogs were so bad, and she wanted to call the state animal control. She discussed this with her supervisor in Prospect, and he told her not to get involved. She also stated that pics of before and after the grooming was, as well as the very overgrown nails. She stated that she groomed 3 dogs and then was hired by the town to continue grooming the rest, but she realized the job was so huge she had to have another assistant. The dogs had matted fur, they had cake, feces to them, urine, and bad skin conditions. She had to go to specific blades to get through the matted fur. She told Leeler that another dog that she groomed had skin that was so raw and needed to get to the vet. Dogs prior to May of 2024.
Time.
Well, the one thing that really struck me was that ACO Leeler had said she brought Tiny to be euthanized, but she needed permission from the town attorney. And he advised her to request a letter from the veterinarian stating necessity of euthanasia, and then it was not her wrongdoing that caused the condition of the dog. She stated that she never received the letter from the vet, and that was because the veterinarian was already filing animal cruelty charges. I don't know what stopped the warrant from going through, but it's really concerning that all of you knew it, including the town attorney, and it was stopped. How could you let somebody continue to work like that?
Thank you.
Hi, council. Thank you for hearing us tonight. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. My name is Lori Barnes. I'm at 532 East Johnson Avenue. I'm just reading a little bit from the report that continued from Holly. And again, this is just for public knowledge because you all know this. So, and I didn't know this, so it was very hard for me to get through this and read this. It really was hard. That the ACO from Prospect had come, and she stated on 9/17/23 that she was at the pound and one of the dogs was bleeding. When assisting to inspect the dog, it was noted that her nail had grown through the paw pad and was bleeding. She stated she instructed the ACO leader to take the dog to the vet immediately. The dog was taken to Central Hospital, where she was diagnosed with an infected ingrown declaw. Mel, I can't pronounce her last name, stated that previously to her grooming in May, she had witnessed ACO hosing the kennels down with the dogs in them. She saw her pour bleach in the cage and then hose it down with the dogs in them. I think if any of you have animals, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but if she's been an ACO for a long time, they said they advised her that would cause potential skin issues. She was very distraught about the conditions of the animals. She stated she reached out to the Cheshire Town Attorney, informing him of the conditions, and she felt like she was being ignored, like I do right now. She stated that she felt the conditions of the dogs were really bad when she was there in May, and that it was at the level of cruelty, And as an animal control officer, she had a duty to report it. She wanted to call, like Holly said, the state animal control, and she couldn't. Her boss advised her not to. They asked her if, as a professional groomer, what she felt about grooming the animals, and she stated that it was horrible neglect. There was no reason for any dog to get into that condition. She'd offered to assist so many times, and she stated that the condition was worse than anything she'd ever seen in her professional capacity as a groomer. And she would have to do a medical groom as opposed to a maintenance groom on some of the dogs because of how bad it was. So I literally have like 29 seconds. They did a warrant they were going to do a warrant in November. Then they sent it to the prosecutor. The prosecutor sent it back and ended up getting squashed. And the Department of Agriculture said they may take action against licensing. And here we are. I just don't understand, like, here we are, and we have this, she went through the class for animal control, and there's some laws that have to change, and definitely some things at the pound that have to, yes, I did my own, sorry, I'm going. There's some things that have to change, but, like, I really want to put my value and my trust in you guys that we're not just up here, we're not just jumping on a bandwagon. Like, when you read these reports and you see this, we're not horrible people, like, that just have nothing better to do. This was neglect, and she should not be in that job. And if nobody hears this, we want her fired. Like, we want her fired. I offered many times to help. I'll come in, I'll help you. You don't even have to tell anybody that I came. Let me come and help you. Like, come on. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lori Russo, 39 Plum Hollow Way, Berlin. I'm here again to discuss not just the dogs, but the flagrant disregard of council, specifically Mayor Talbot, to truthfully address the issues as is their duty to the Cheshire residents. Mayor Talbot, you stated no good deed goes unpunished. Please enlighten us as to the good deed you refer. Are you referring to seizing 28 dogs from their home where their abuser had been removed and then dumping them into a dog pound rated for only 18 dogs, only to be subjected to horrific conditions, including gross neglect, delayed, inadequate medical care, and diagnostics? That was not a good deed. Is a good deed to wait 4 days, or is it a good deed to wait 4 days before bringing an injured dog, Lily, to the vet, and then not even having an x-ray done? Was it a good deed to falsely state the owner of the dog only wanted palliative care? Was it a good deed to then not treat the dog with the medications that she was given, allowing the dog to decline to a urine and feces soaked mess? That is not a good deed. Was it a good deed to ignore the condition of Tiny and decide the best course of action was to euthanize, not because he was terminal, but because it would require medicating him several times a day to get his skin and eye condition under control? Was it a good deed to deny prompt veterinary care for Tiny's teeth, or was it a good deed to allow his teeth to fall out and abscess? Was it a good deed to feed him dry kibble after being told he wasn't eating and could not eat the wet food? And could not eat the dry food. The necropsy on Tiny showed not only was he underweight, but a stomach content including his own hair. I don't see a good deed there either. Again, Mr. Talbot, you tell us all you are dog lovers and have rescued, but can't speak due to pending litigation or investigation. It's been a while, and you have no intentions of speaking other than to blatantly lie to the public. Actions speak louder than words. Let's be clear, though. Don't expect a pat on the back for doing what should have always been done. Tell us the pound is cleaned up and new floors are coming is really a joke,
considering the floor's failed inspection back in 2021, allowing an incompetent ACO responsible for the neglect and abuse of the dogs to still remain employed and to train a new ACO is grossly irresponsible. This is just a short list of why there's a huge need for change. Who you see in this room today is just the tip of the iceberg of the people that are disgusted.
Time, Ms. Russo.
Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Marina Bagliori, 1191 Meriden Avenue, Savington. Here I again for some kind of reason talking about Teeny. And today I'll be talking about Dr. Anderson and an investigation done by Tanya Viskovich as a state ACO. So Tanya Viskovich asking Dr. Anderson a question about the Teeny during the investigation. And she asked a question, if we can provide for Teeny treatment for condition which been diagnosed before he put down, what treatment would be needed? And if this treatment been provided by ACO, could be he survived? Dr. Anderson answer, yes, condition Teeny presented could be treated. We reviewed treatment of the skin, antibiotic, medicated shampoo, pain medication, anti-inflammatory for arthritis, medication for the dry eyes, which could be need to be admitted multiple times after the ulcer was treated with an ice antibiotic. All of it explained and discussed with the officer, who was certain what she can put approval to put him down, but instead of take 1 week of oral antibiotic and pain medication, and didn't take antibiotic for the eyes to get to euthanize appointment. We received ER report from May, which discussed dry eyes and skin lesion, but not mention corner ulcer at the time, which mean dry eyes worsened over 2 months period without treatment. Tanya is ACO asking another question. Did ACO layer at any time since May call office and require medication for Teeny? Answer from Dr. Anderson, it's no. Since May, we received no call about medication to treat Teeny for dry eyes. We saw Teeny first on October 22, where he has mild to moderate dental calcification, but otherwise he has a normal exam prior 1 week to euthanasia. So my question is, this is priorly ACO Layla decide to euthanize a dog for a simple condition what could be treated if she decide to work and spend the time with the dogs. I don't know, and I talked before with, it's very hard for me because I'm animal lovers and it's taken to my heart and heartbroken to read this report after reports. This is not our estimating and it's my concern. This is coming from Dr. Anderson. This is coming from the Department of Agriculture. This is coming from another ACO, and it's look like not going nowhere. And if you call this animal lovers and you can continue to sleep at night, I'm not sure what else can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bagliari.
My name is Bob Giddings. I've lived at 915 Boulder Road, Cheshire for 51 years. I'm a retired veterinarian, and of course, I'm a pet owner. I worked for almost 17 years at Cheshire Veterinary Hospital. Then in 1988, I established the Kensington Bird and Animal Hospital, a hospital which sees primarily so-called non-traditional pets, birds, reptiles, small mammals, and so on. My personal specialty was avian medicine and surgery. Over the years, I assisted the towns of Cheshire, Hamden, and Bethany, the Rocky Hill Police Department, the Connecticut State Police, the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, as they dealt with cases of animal hoarding, neglect, abuse, and flat-out cruelty. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on a Sunday morning sometime back in the 1990s. A pet store about 1.5 miles from my hospital experienced a devastating fire. Within 1 hour, my staff and I, on a Sunday morning, suddenly had to deal with almost 150 animals of all types. Most were alive, but there were 24 dead puppies, and 4 or 5 severely burned reptiles that had to be humanely euthanized. It was a day of complete chaos. We didn't have enough proper cages for all those animals. We didn't have enough of the special diets that many of them required. We didn't have enough oxygen to treat all the cases of smoke inhalation. But we also did not have a court case complicating things by telling us what we could and could not do with all those poor creatures. And so, with the blessing of the pet store owner, we were able to find homes for almost every single one of those animals in less than a week. So when I hear of what happened when 32 dogs were unexpectedly dumped on CAC, that's Cheshire Animal Control, I can sympathize. Were they prepared for all those dogs? Of course not. Were they immediately able to give them all adequate cages? No, the facility was not designed or built with that sort of emergency in mind. The staff and volunteers do the best they could under extremely challenging circumstances. Obviously, a lot of people in this room do not think they did. I would comment here that some of the things that I have heard said in the last few minutes, while they are emotional and so on, they do not reflect what actually happens in veterinary medicine. Demonectic mange is not passed from dog to dog, except mother to puppy, except for extremely rarely. And I could go on. Ingrown toenails don't happen in a month. They happen in 6 months or 8 months or 10 months. So a lot of what you're saying may be the case, but it didn't happen here now. For better or worse, the crisis led to an overdue close examination of CAC, personnel, policies, and facilities. Not surprisingly, problems were found.
Time, Mr.
Improvements,
Jennings.
including increased oversight and facility upgrades, were initiated and continue. Are things moving fast enough? Of course not. But to all of you upset people here this evening, I would say this. You have made your point. In fact, I understand that you've been making it over and over and over again for many weeks. By now, you are beating a dead horse. And believe me, as a veterinarian, it pains me to use that phrase.
Mr. Jennings, please wrap up. Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So deal back to the rhetoric. Take a deep breath. Instead of repeatedly making demands, consider thanking the council for whatever progress has been made so far. Make constructive criticisms. Offer to become part of the team trying to solve the problems. And to the town council, I absolutely am not letting you off the hook. You must keep this issue front and center. Do not drop the ball. Continue the hard work. Be willing to seriously consider ideas and critics from any source. And to all of you, remember, respect, cooperation, dialogue, and understanding accomplish far more than do anger, distrust, and confrontation. Please try to work together. It is the animals of Cheshire who will benefit the most from your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings.
Good evening, Council. My name is Lori Ratchelis. I live at 42 Harrison Road here in Cheshire. I want to read an email that came to my attention, sent to me last week by the Meriden Animal Hospital treating vet technician, actually. And this is an original email that is in the DOAG complaint that all of you should have seen. On 7/6/2024, this report concerns Tiny, a roughly 12-year-old male Shih Tzu under Cheshire Animal Control's care following a seizure of multiple animals and a pending cruelty case. He's been in their care for nearly 2 years and has been seen at Meriden Animal Hospital on the date of 7/6/24. The officer mentioned he was in poor condition due to age and that he and 2 other dogs urinate on their bedding and lie in it, causing urine scalding. She noted to have about 30 dogs and was severely understaffed, making it difficult to clean and wash them regularly. Tiny had urine scalding, urine-stained fur, multiple mats and stools stuck to the hair by the anus, alopecia on his distal limbs, red raw skin, grade 4 dental disease, etc., etc. He also had an arched spine and an irregular gait, likely due to arthritis. We advised the ACO that he needed extensive care to improve his condition. The officer took an oral antibiotic and anti-inflammatory for 1 week while awaiting authorization for euthanasia from town authorities for Tiny. The ACO at this time, on 7/6, 2024, requested a letter clearing her of any wrongdoing in his care, but we declined as we did not know the case history or progression. 7/31/2024, Tiny was euthanized in much the same condition as his previous visit, with wet fur, foul odor from his mouth. The ACO expressed concern about potential legal repercussions from the owner. At that point, we humanely euthanized Tiny. They received a copy of the ER visit to Central Hospital dated 5/24/2024, a couple of months prior, noting his dental disease and dry eye. No ulcer was mentioned at that time. Skin irritation from urine scalding. This visit was prompted by a grooming appointment where the groomer raised concerns, received a 2-week antibiotic injection, and was advised to use medicated shampoo for his skin. Based on the ER report, Tiny's condition worsened significantly in less than 2 months. His skin, oral health, and dry eye, which now had an ulcer, were not addressed during that period. We are concerned about possible overcrowding and understaffing at the facility and the help of other animals, especially the two that were kept with Tiny. The condition of these pets, taken from a cruelty situation to a supposedly safer place, remains unknown. And sadly, Tiny's case shows that without proper care, the outcome was far from what anyone would have wished for. And again, this is the treating technician at Meriden Animal Hospital. And the one thing I want to add, when a police officer does wrong or is suspected to do wrong, and there is an investigation into that police officer is put on leave until the investigation is completed. My question, I'm not expecting an answer, but my question is, why during this investigation is she still allowed to work? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ratchelis.
Hello, Tony Bagliori, 1191 Meriden Avenue, Southington, Connecticut. Best Friends for Life Animal Rescue. I'm happy to see you all again, I guess. It's been like 4 months now. I greatly appreciate all these wonderful people coming out here, taking their time for this. It seems kind of being in rescue for 23 years, the whole thing just seems very strange and bizarre to me. Again, I don't understand. I mean, I don't know, not to elaborate on all the obvious evidence that's been presented. It's just really baffles me that you continue to employ this person and pay her, what was it, $80,000, $90,000 a year?
Plus her 2 other jobs.
Plus her, so she has 2 other jobs, and if she was so much overextended in Cheshire, how would she have the time to go get these 2 other jobs? Because she's already overextended at her full-time job. It just completely baffles me. A lot of this just doesn't make sense, and it's just, I mean, it stinks of corruption. I mean, I think this is the very core and the heart of corruption, that the chief of police thinks there's nothing wrong with this. You're paying somebody almost $100,000 a year. If I make that kind of money, I have to work really hard. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I mean, and if I don't do my job properly, my customers will call someone else. I can't continue doing the same job. It just completely baffles me, as well as it's extremely sad what happened to these dogs. I mean, and this is a report from a doctor. I mean, not from me, not from these people, from a doctor. You know, and whether or not, you certainly have probable cause. You have probable cause to file criminal charges which are not filed. And there was a warrant which is crushed, which also stinks of corruption. This, when people say, I don't know why anything is done. Why is nothing being done about this? Well, this is exactly why. This is why. Things are crushed, there's corruption, and the whole thing really stinks of corruption. It really does. And remember, change makes change. If you want to make changes, you have to make changes to make those changes. I mean, it just completely baffles me as a rescue person, you know, that this kind of stuff could go on and continue to go on. And now, whether or not you file the charges, animals are gone, they're with God. The animals are with God. You know, whether or not this woman is criminally charged, I mean, is here or there. You know, whether you continue to pay her and do this job is very, I don't know, incompetent to say the least, makes very little sense to a simple person like me. You know, I might be dumb as a doornail, but I know a little bit of something about nothing. And that just doesn't make sense. You know, the whole thing just doesn't make sense. I don't know. It's a tragedy what's happened, and it's a tragedy what continues to happen. And I think the lack of transparency, and I don't know all your individual jobs, what they are, and whether or not
Time,
you.
Mr. Baglieri.
What's that?
Time.
Oh, we're good? All right. Good. Good is good.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maureen Jacobishin. I live at 125 Grandview Avenue in Wallingford, Connecticut. I'm sure you might be wondering why someone from Wallingford would still care to be at this meeting tonight. I've been interested and disgusted by this situation with the Cheshire Animal Control Officer and the facility she was responsible for since I first heard about it a few months ago. This is the third town council meeting that I have attended regarding this case. I've sat back and listened to so many hardworking, concerned people talk about the conditions in the pound and what went on in there for 2 years. Many of these same fine advocates came to Wallingford a few years ago to help when my town had a problem with the lack of air conditioning at our canine facility. I feel a responsibility to pay these volunteers back by lending my voice regarding the Cheshire situation. I'm a former Cheshire resident and still have many, many friends and acquaintances in the town of Cheshire. I worked in Cheshire for 40 years and have a real affinity for the town. Some of you might recognize me as I, along with my husband, were first employees and then the publishers of the Cheshire Herald for 40 and 50 years each. After attending these town council meetings and reading the testimony from the volunteers at the shelter, the veterinarian records, and the Department of Agricultural reports, it's really the first time that I truly wished I was still working at the Cheshire Herald since I retired 6 years ago. I know if this situation was being locally reported on a weekly basis, it would have received the attention that was so sorely needed to help those defenseless animals. I know that the Cheshire Herald of that time would have kept this neglect of the dogs in front of the readers who are all not on social media. I know there would be letters to the editor that would have been written to put this fiasco squarely in front of the citizens. For the life of me, I cannot understand how the town expected to house 32 dogs in that facility for 2 years without additional help and resources. It's just mind-boggling. And the ACO, April Leeler, I understand, is also a part-time ACO in 2 other towns. It seems ridiculous when she can't even properly care for one facility. I recently had 2 very senior dogs to look after, and believe me, it's a lot of work. April was the first line of defense for those innocent dogs. If no one from the police department or the town bothered to check up on them, she should have screamed from the top of her lungs to her superiors at the police department to get them the help they needed. If that didn't work, she should have gone up higher in the ranks of town government. She didn't. She was complacent and apparently uncaring. These poor dogs had very little contact for 2 years. If they suffered from neglect, so what? If they died, they died. You all know the story, and I won't take any more time to repeat it. I know you've all been saying you can't discuss it because it's a legal matter. How long are you going to say that? What about talking to these people who continue to seek justice for the dogs that died? I have seen where there's some concern on the council that not enough Cheshire residents care about this issue, so stay quiet. Maybe the thinking is if the town doesn't address it, it'll go away. Maybe when election time comes in November, it will all be forgotten. Maybe, but I don't think so. Your citizens deserve answers. This lack of communication from the town is troubling and disrespectful. The town of Cheshire dropped the ball big time on this one, and there needs to be accountability. The people who care about the welfare of animals will not let the issue die. Do the right thing and open up the lines of communication once and for all. Thank you for your volunteerism, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Jane Dowling, D-O-W-L-I-N-G. I live in Waterbury, 1400 Meriden Road. I'm an animal lover. I have a cat. I've had many cats in my years, and I love all animals, dogs, etc., bunnies. And I became aware of this Cheshire situation a few months ago as well. This is my third meeting. I just want to say that I'm appalled that there has been no communication from the town council. And no, we are not beating a dead horse. We will continue fighting for these animals. Even though the issue is 2 years old, it's very important to find out exactly what happened and to correct what happened and to fire people who mistreated animals, and not just the ACO, but all the way up and all the way down. And I don't have a whole lot to say, but I just want to say I don't know not only how do you sleep at night, but how do you live with yourselves?
Thank you, Ms. Dowling.
Hi. I think I've done this before. I'm Linda Pleva. I live at 23 Norton Place in Plainville. I'm the vice president of Desmond's Army. I don't know if you guys are familiar with who Desmond's Army is, but we fight for justice for animals that have been abused. Our members attend anywhere between 60 to 70 court cases every month. We see every kind of abuse there is under the sun. We see cases that are much more egregious than this, and we see cases that are less. But we see them. We see them in our courtrooms because the abuser has been arrested and brought to justice. That's not happening here. I don't know why. You confuse me terribly. I don't know why. Please tell us why. This animal abuser, it's what she is, has not been arrested. Please tell us why we cannot find justice for these dogs. Why? I don't understand it. And what I understand less of is why she still has her job. And if for some legal reason, I don't know, I don't think there could possibly be a legal reason why you can't fire her, and that's what she deserves, to be fired, go on the record so that she could never get another job with animals. But if you can't do that, at least suspend her. Get her away from animals where she can't hurt anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pleba.
Hi, my name is Amy Lynn Gentile. I'm from 15 Chiswick Lane, Barkhamsted, Connecticut. I've been a professional pet stylist, groomer for over 30 years. I just want to address that as a groomer, dogs in the breeds that she had in her care come into my shop. They're groomed every 3 to 4, or 4 to 6, or 6 to 8, or 8 to 10 weeks. Their nails are done either every 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, or 5 weeks. I look at these pictures and it's disgusting because you, the town council, should have hired a professional groomer to work with you and your ACO so that any animals that come in, they're automatically, right away, she contacts a groomer and they come in and they take care of the animal. I just have to say another thing that really disgusts me is the fact that she poured bleach and water in these cages with these little dogs that are only like 3, 4, or 5 pounds. They're tiny. They're drenched in bleach, they're drenched in their own piss, and they're drenched in anything else that comes in there. Have you ever used bleach in a small area and inhaled it? Your eyes run, your nose burns, you can't breathe that well. I wish that you all could go sit in a kennel like that. Just sit in there, get drenched with bleach and water, and see how you like it. I don't see any of you really, you don't look concerned, you're falling asleep, you're like this. But you know what, if it was your animal that somebody was taking care of and should have been taking care of it well, and these dogs get scalding burn from bleach, it's disgusting. I just feel that she should be fired, she should be arrested. If it was just an ordinary person in this room that this happened to, we'd be arrested already. It wouldn't take you, it's just taking forever and ever, and I don't know what the reason is why she's still there, and I don't understand why she got a raise for animal cruelty. You just gave her a good applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gentile.
Good evening. My name is Marge Chapman, 15 Stonehenge Place, Cheshire, Connecticut. I am not an expert in dog care. I am a dog owner and I love them dearly. I am not a legal expert. I do understand that this is a highly emotional situation. And I also would like to offer my thanks to the town council who has handled this, I think, with respect and consideration, and has now done as soon as they were able, to appoint a third-party objective investigator to find the facts. Clearly, there are a lot of facts out there, and this investigation firm, I'm sure, will find them and report to the council, who will share them with us. Thank you for your service and for your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you for your comments this evening. As I mentioned, as I'm sure a lot of you heard at our meeting last month, that the town council has commissioned an independent third-party investigation in order to ensure the integrity of that investigation. The town council will have no further comment until that investigation has been completed. Thank you again for your comments. Moving on in the agenda, we go to item number 4, which is the approval of minutes for 2 meetings, the February 11th, 2025 Town Council regular meeting, as well as the February 25th, 25 Town Council special meeting. I'll accept a motion. Seconded by Mr. Jenks, or seconded by Mr. Jenks, and Mr. Walsh, I'll get you the next one. Or actually, it's moved by Mr. Jenks and seconded by Mr. Walsh, so there we go. All those in favor? Go ahead. Discussion before we vote, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just had a question for you, Noel. So I contacted you about the meeting minutes. I think it was the February 25th one. I wanted the record for Mr. Gossenberg to reflect the answer to the community question regarding the installation of a temporary fence, and then it was taken down to put up a more permanent fence. And the meeting minutes just didn't reflect his answer. I just want to make sure that somehow that gets updated.
Can we add that as a,
Yes, it would just need to be an amendment to the February 25th.
okay. So, Mr. Jenks, I will ask that you amend your motion to say to move the minutes, approval of minutes for February 11th regular meeting, February 25th special meeting as amended. And Mr. Walsh, thank you very much for an amended second. And with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Allard. Moves us to number 5, the consent calendar for Tuesday, March 11th. Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031125-1. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves the consent calendar for March 11, 2025 as follows.
We have a motion and Mr. Veliber with the second. Just wanted to thank the Cheshire Rotary Club for their donation, Mr. Fasulo for his continued donations to the Jitney Bus Fund, as well as the Hope for Our Neighbors group for their generous donation to the Human Services gift account. With that, I'll call for a vote on the consent calendar. Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to items removed from consent calendar. There are none, which brings us to old business, and it's a shame that this is old business, Mr. Gussenberg, but you are certainly doing your work with the Next Generation School Committee like a spring chicken, so that is not reflective of the work of your committee.
Good evening. The Next Generation School Building Committee spent the last couple of meetings focusing on approval of the maximum guaranteed price document. This is a detailed document for each of the two schools. That's an agreement between ourselves and the CM, and it details all of the construction bids, details the alternates, other assumptions, the plans, and the schedule itself. It's a good-sized document. These are the two here. And went through all of that and finalized those, and so we are in good shape and off and running. The site itself, I visited both sites today. We're moving along well. We're still pouring lots of concrete, working on doing the footings and the walls. We have people on site now with a lot of underground utilities as we're doing plumbing, electrical, all the other things that need to be done there. Moving a lot of dirt around still, and we're not at a point yet where you see huge amounts. That'll take another month or so until the steel starts coming in, but we are making good headway. The cold weather slowed us down just a little bit, but I got to say ONG was wonderful. They brought crews in on Saturday, 2 Saturdays in a row, so that they could get caught up, and they're feeling very good right now. We're right on schedule and moving along well. So that's it at the moment. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Gussenberg. Questions for Rich? Seeing none, just a comment. I don't know if you were in the room at the beginning when Mr. Falk spoke, but he did mention they are trying to bring up Barney Barnum, Colonel Barnum, on May 30th. So just you may want to kind of circle something on your calendar and that of the committee, and we will certainly get more information to you as it becomes available, but maybe there's something we could do out at the site or whatever.
I'm sure we could arrange something. Since you brought it up, I'll just note I have a friend who is a lieutenant colonel in the Army, a West Point graduate, so I sent him the information about Barney Barnum, and he came back very excited, said he actually read over all the citations on him and felt that it was a wonderful choice to make, and he was very pleased with it. So committee is, we didn't get involved with the naming of the school, but I think the council made a good choice there.
Just speaking on that, will there be a sign being put up there saying future home of, I'm just thinking if Colonel Barnum is coming up, I think it would be nice if we have some kind of signage up there that will have his name on it, the future site of the.
I know I had mentioned
Yeah.
it to our architect. I don't know if anything has been done along those lines, but I can follow up with it.
Yeah, I just think it would be nice if he's coming up, we have something there for him.
So my thought, Mr. Walsh, was I think if Colonel Barnum is coming up and we have the opportunity that we should have a banner there, but have it covered and kind of unveil it when Colonel Barnum is here. So I think that would be absolutely appropriate.
Sounds good. I'll follow up.
More, and, this is a public meeting, so he probably already knows about it, but it should come as no.
Surprise,
It should come as no surprise,
I'm
exactly.
sure he's watching all these
Yeah,
meetings.
exactly. But we will definitely put together something and make sure we have something to put on the fence to recognize the property as the future home of the Barnum Elementary School. So, yep, thank you. All great ideas, everyone, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Gussenberg, I had the opportunity to pop into 209 the other night and thank the committee in person. But again, my monthly thank you goes out to not only you, but your whole committee for
No,
your.
they've been very appreciative of the council's support, and as I said, we're moving along well. You chose a good committee right from the beginning.
Thank you very much, and
You're
we'll
welcome.
see you next month, as they
All
say.
right.
Which brings us to item number 8, new business. And we get to introduce a new employee who's not exactly all that new. And I know that you've been with us for a while, but good opportunity for us to meet formally Assistant Town Planner Monica Sims, and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. You should have my Blight list in front of you, and I will go through them. There are some old Blight things that need to go on this list, but they will be coming shortly. But tonight, this is just from November, from when I started, and the Blight complaints that I've received thus far. The first one is 925 Sperry Road. There were junk cars out there. That case is closed. 1118 7 Edith Place. That was overgrowth and rodent infestation. That is an ongoing blight issue. We have issued a basically telling the homeowner that we will clean and lean the property. From prior, before I came on, this has been an issue in the neighborhood. One of the homeowners has complained constantly regarding this property. It is currently vacant, and trying to deal with the homeowner and other issues outside of my purview, it just made it really hard for us to enforce. There were some other things that that were beyond me. So that is, that letter went out on last Friday. Myself and the town planner, we went out to that property and posted the actual clean and lean, and that gives them that gives the property owner 30 days. And with Blight, we want to make sure that we are, number one, working with the property owners, trying to do everything in our power to get them to comply. So this is the last resort on 7 Edith Place. 733 Allen Ave, there was a pile of junk in the rear yard. That was closed. 1750 Waterbury Road, there was junk, debris, and trash. And just recently, I sent a cease and desist in February, and it appears that the homeowner are having some financial issues, so I am working with them. It is difficult, but again, our overall goal is to work with the homeowner if they are experiencing hardship and to work with them, but we will get compliance. It just may take some time. But we do have blight issues that is not a quick cleanup. 100 Shipman Drive, that was junk, debris, and trash, and I guess this was an ongoing blight complaint. Just recently, I put pending lien and clean on Friday. 203 Junket came out, and we removed debris and other items that were on the property. This property owner is a hoarder. While we were out there, and I have a spreadsheet you should have before you, but just to give you a brief explanation. When we went out there, there are some other issues going on with the homeowner. They're elderly, and there are some mental things that are going on with them. And when we went out, we were escorted by the Cheshire Police Department. They were out there with us, and they did an excellent job with trying to keep the homeowner calm, because, you know, with hoarding, they don't want to part with anything. And upon cleaning, the gentlemen that were out there cleaning up, as they were opening bins, they found that there were brand-new tools. So we know that since it's a mental health issue, the homeowner came out, and there was, he was upset, and the ambulance had to be called. So this is just one of those cases where it is severe. It's not just, you know, they don't want to do anything. It's a mental thing. So we did have Human Services out there as well to assist, to kind of keep the homeowners calm. But it was a situation where the ambulance had to be called. And again, Cheshire Police Department, they did an excellent job out there just trying to keep everything calm. But this is an extreme case where there is hoarding. So they did an excellent job cleaning up. I'm sure we'll be back out there come the spring with grass and overgrowth of bushes and, you know, whatever else is out there. There were a ton of leaves, as you can see in the pictures. This was a severe case. I have seen worse, but again, this is an extreme case. 23 Birch Drive, there was furniture out there. The property owner did remove the furniture that was there, 894 South Meriden Road. This is pending. Again, there are a ton of items out there, registered vehicles, just junk. I did send a letter to the property owner. He has been in touch with me, so I am going to work with him to get compliance. Back in February, everything was frozen, so at that time, there was nothing that the property owner can do, but that will be ongoing, and we're gonna try and get that property cleaned up. 780 Highland, trash and dumpster overflowing, that one was closed. 1034 Prospect Road, I've sent out a cease and desist on this to no avail. The property owners have not contacted me, and with these cases, sometimes you have to be creative, and I am due to go out there to speak with the property owner because they haven't contacted me or emailed me or anything, so I'm gonna go out there and see if I can talk to them face-to-face to see if something can be done. 49 Rockview Drive, that was closed, that was referred to the fire department. And 11 Highland Avenue, this is one of those complaints that were prior me that I will continue to add on to this list, and we will enforce this. I know this has been a eyesore, and a cease and desist will be sent out to that property owner. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Monica, first of all, and as you were hearing, you know, I think she inherited a lot. She's only been here since November. She's inherited a number of cases that, through the transitions, sort of had stalled out a little bit. Blight takes persistence and care and attention and record keeping, and the assistance, of course, of the town attorney and the town planner. She's doing a fantastic job of following up and following through. And as I think she articulated very well, and as the case Friday from Chipman Drive sort of demonstrates, these are very complicated, multifaceted issues also. So I know the council receives, actually, I think Chipman was an example where we received some complaints just recently asking why nothing had been done. Often behind the scenes, there is a lot being done. Sometimes it's on the human services side, sometimes it's with legal or with planning and the timeframes that are in the ordinance that the council passed. But again, I just want to give Monica a lot of credit for really following through and sticking to the timelines and being very organized. So there are still some more that we know of that are percolating that need to be added to the list and others that you may have questions about. But in just a relatively short amount of time, she's made a lot of headway. And I think, again, fairness, consistency, and compassion for the folks in that situation is really our goal. And I know it's the council's goal as well. So I just want to say that.
Sure, thank you. We certainly appreciate you reaching across department lines. It's been a great way, I'm sure, for you to get to know some of your colleagues in a short amount of time. But we appreciate you bringing in, PD is necessary, fire department is necessary, human services is necessary. So it takes all the departments to deal with some of these, and I appreciate your willingness to do that. So the 6 that are open here, now these are ones that have come to you since November, or like I know the one on Highland is was prior to that. Is there anything else that's open before I kick it to my colleagues? Are there any other properties that are on your list, so to speak?
So what I inherited, there is a list of them. I just need to add them. I just wanted to make sure that the the blight complaints that I received since I started in November, I wanted to make sure that I was following through on those. And like I said a few minutes ago, I will add some of the older ones that are percolating. I will add them to the list.
Excellent. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Monica, and you were kind enough to assist a constituent who was having an issue, and I appreciate the quick and timely manner you handled it in. Just a quick question on when you do C&Ds on these, if you normally give them 30 days, or I know that it's in the ordinance, but then what's the next step? I mean, have we started getting any monetary? I know there's one that I think there's a lien, pending a lien. Have we collected any? Like you had that junk, so the town had to pay to have this junk removed, and we don't get any.
So we will put a lien on the property.
Right.
That's how we will get our money back.
Okay, so for those who, I mean, I guess you're the person they should contact if they see any issues or have any issues.
Correct.
I mean, when we started this blight ordinance, I always said, it's if it starts affecting the property values of the neighborhood, that's when it's time that we have to step in. If they want to keep, inside their house messy and junky and falling apart, that's on them. But once it starts affecting the neighborhood, then it's the time for the town to step in. So I appreciate the work you're doing. I would say that you might want to take a ride down Jarvis Road and look at some of the state-owned houses down there, because they might need some gentle nudging. You can contact the state on that one.
Mr. Velber.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the, first off, welcome.
Thank you.
And I know we've had a couple conversations on the phone already, one of which involved 100 Chipman Drive, just to find out where we were. And I did get a call from the neighbor that apparently that the town was out there working on that. So I really appreciate that. I know when I was the chair of the Ordinance Review Committee where we created the blight lien, this was one of the original properties that helped inspire that ordinance. And so I'm glad it's only taken 6 years, but I'm glad we're finally there. But are you are you, and I saw some of the pictures, you had included pictures in there. Are you done with that property, or are you because at least the last email I had was that there were, at least from the neighbor, was that there were still stuff in the backyard, but I don't know can't remember what time of the day that she had emailed me on that,
So
whether.
there are some items in the backyard. Basically, we wanted to clean up the front yard.
Right.
Because that's what everybody can see.
Right.
So that was our main goal, to have someone come in and just clean up the front because it's an eyesore. But I'm sure, like I said, the grass will be high because it appears, it may not be true, that the property owners either can't maintain it or, there's some other issues going on. But for the most part, we were taking care of the front.
Gotcha.
Because that's really what you can see.
All right, I just want to make sure, because I know that notwithstanding the fact that the front is the important thing, it is also important that the neighbors aren't continuing to look out their side windows and looking, at
So I
at a
did go
junky
in the
spot.
back while we were out there, and it was not bad as the front yard. They do have some items on the back porch, but it was not anything like the front yard or the side yard where the driveway was.
Okay, well, first off, I thank you very much for getting out there and working on this property. I'm sure from the pictures, obviously the front yard looks much better, and I obviously, you might want to, before you close this one out, you might want to put a star or asterisk next to that closed, because
I'm sure it will remain open.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Pearson?
Likewise, welcome.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you. Obviously, it clearly, in many cases, blight is a symptom of a larger issue, and you're addressing those larger issues. Sometimes they're incredibly complex cases. And the fact that we have someone who is helping us look out for some of our most vulnerable residents, I very much appreciate. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure to see you at a council meeting, and we should have you back on a semi-regular basis, but thank you,
meeting you
and
all.
welcome again.
Thank you.
And we're going to move from, yeah, sure.
Ask
Ms.
one
Moore.
question. Is it possible, as part of the report, like we get the police and we get a monthly report on these cases as well, so that we originally were getting those, but now that.
Yeah, the plan was, this report you've seen here, actually, the plan was to just have that as it's updated. If it's
Good.
updated in a month, just attached to the back.
All right, I appreciate it, thank you.
Some months it may look the same as the month before, but that's why you have the open and closed.
Monica was nodding her head, so something tells me we will be seeing that, so. All right, we move on to item B and move from one town employee to another. This is the appropriation of the use of special town clerk funds. Mr. Wolf, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031125-2. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves the appropriation of the use of special town clerk funds from the following accounts. Number one, $15,000 from the Historic Document Preservation Fund. Number two, $10,000 from the Community Investment Fund. Number three, $15,000 from the Mortgage Electronic Registration Incorporated Fund.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Velaber, and for discussion, since it's been about 5 hours since we last spoke, Patty, I will kick it over to you for discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies to the Budget Committee who's already heard this, but I wanted to thank you all for inviting me here tonight to discuss the appropriation request. I'll give a overview of the different accounts and funds just so that everybody understands how they work. The appropriation I'm requesting, then I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. The Town of Cheshire receives funds through daily land recording fees per state statute. The fees collected by the town clerk are distributed between the town and the state. The statutes also allocate the municipal share between the town's general revenue and the town clerk's office. The portion allowed to the town clerk or the town clerk funds are under control of the town clerk and are used to run the clerk's office, as supported by the legislative history, confirmed by the Office of Legislative Research, as well as former town attorney Al Smith and current town attorney Jeff D'Onofrio. I did warn him I was going to call his name out tonight. That said, the statute also suggests that the funds must still be appropriated to the clerk's office by the town council, which is what brings me here to you tonight. The municipal share of the funds is broken down into the town general revenue and 3 special town clerk accounts. You'll notice that I'm requesting a smaller allocation this year. We generally come every 2 years requesting the allocation. This year's is lower, as the past few years have seen a decrease in the revenue for these accounts. As you probably know, the land recordings increased dramatically during the pandemic, specifically the years 2020 to 2022, and have decreased each year since. Past use of the funds has included several digitization projects, improvements to the vault and office, and temporary staff. The first account is the Historic Document Preservation Fund with a current balance of $22,800, and I'm requesting an allocation of $15,000. Uses of this account include restoration, preservation, and training to maintain and track historic documents, microfilming, storage of historic documents and files, and upgrading vault facilities. The 2025 to 2026 focus is for the 2026 grant overage for a map cabinet and an elections cabinet for $150. 2026 to 27 focus is for the expected grant overage for land record shelving in the vault. And that will depend on the amount the state offers with the grant. If it's the same, $7,000, then approximately $5,000 would be needed for the land record shelves. If their grant is 0, which I don't expect, but if it's 0, then $12,000 would be necessary for the shelving. Second account is the Community Investment Fund with a current balance of $14,620, and I'm requesting an allocation of $10,000. Uses of this account include administrative and related costs for running the department, preservation, indexing, filming, equipment, conferences and training, and temporary help and other purposes. The 2025 to 26 focus is for temporary staff pay, $2,000, conferences and training classes, $500, commission book binders, we have new binders for the commission books, they're beautiful, you should come see them, $2,200, and vital binder replacement as needed, up to $4,000. The third and final account is the MERS account, or Mortgage Electronic Registration Fund. Current balance of $17,519, and I'm requesting $15,000. The uses are the same as the Community Investment Fund, and more specifically, other purposes may include any possible overages or unforeseen corrections in the town clerk digitizing projects or historic grant projects and/or office supplies. The focus of this fund will be for the 2 years, 25 to 27, is for a temporary staff pay of $17,000. Ever since the town clerk staff was reduced from 5 to 3, a temporary staff member has enabled us to continue to tidy up older land records and maps and to assist in various office tasks as needed, especially during dog licensing season and absentee ballots during election season. So we're fortunate to have these funds set up by the state and collected by us to be used in ways that benefit our Cheshire residents through the town clerk's office. If you have any questions or comments.
Questions from colleagues? Mr. Velber.
Just a quick question. Obviously, when you look at what you're requesting now versus the balances, are those, you know, it looks like you're kind of getting a little low on some of those balances. So, I mean, it sounds like, you know, there won't, how much do these get replenished in the course of a year? I mean, obviously it depends on, obviously the amount of documents that come in and get recorded. But obviously it looks like, you know, there's going to only be a couple thousand in each of these accounts when, you know, after these appropriations. So at least less than 10,000 in each one of them. So how much would you expect to get in, like, for example, how much, and maybe it's in here, how much did you get in this past year? How much were they replenished?
Sure. So in 2024, the town clerk fund specifically, those three town clerk funds, we enjoyed $10,000, $474. So far, this fiscal year, we are at $6,572. So from the high in 2021 of $25,000 and change, it has each year gone down.
Right.
And that's why my amounts are smaller, because we still have a need, but the money isn't coming in as rapidly as it used to, so I'm limiting the need as much as possible.
Okay, just I'm looking at next year or the next appropriation, and there's probably only going to be about as much as you're asking for, even if replenished, left in those accounts.
Yeah, we're making our best guess as to how much will be there, but the need is still there. And my thought too, Dave, is that the town clerk funds locked up aren't helping anybody, but over the next 2 years, as projects come up, it's access to the funds that can be used to benefit the town.
Right.
It's not to say we're going to spend every dollar, but it's available.
Right, no, and that makes sense. I'm just getting nervous as we get towards, as these accounts come down, is at some point in time, you're not going to be able to ask for these funds. You're not going to have these funds available. And the next was, how did just as a maybe unrelated question, but you mentioned it, last appropriation involved digitizing the land records. And that was supposed to be back basically to the beginning. Did we get to that point? Are we there?
Volume 1.
Okay,
We are back to volume 1. Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jinks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Patty, for the thorough explanation the second time, as well as the first time. But a question I had was, I'm not sure if this is for you to answer, or maybe it's even a Sean or Jeff question. The amounts that we charge for these and then give to the state, is that stipulated by the state?
It is.
It is, okay, so that's a
Yeah,
statutory
and I
thing.
do have that breakdown if you're interested.
Well, I see it in the backup here, so. Is that what you're referring to, the Historic Preservation Fund, we collect $3 and 2 of it goes to the state?
Yeah, I have a better chart that I made in the meantime, which I'm happy to give to Noel, that specifies exactly what goes to the state, what goes to the town general fund, and what goes to the town clerk fund, depending on the document type. But yes, it is by the state. We're going
So
by the
the
state.
amount we charge is stipulated, and the amount that we give to the state is stipulated by the
Correct.
state.
Yes.
We can't adjust these in any way.
We cannot.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Ms. King, thank you very much.
You're
Much
welcome.
appreciated. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
With that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to item C, the renewal of hearing officer contract. Mr. Jinks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution number 031125-3. Be it resolved that the town council approves the successor appointment of Bruce W. Diamond as hearing officer for the term April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026, and further approves and authorizes the town manager to execute the agreement for said appointment per the terms and conditions as presented and attached.
We have a motion and a second from Ms. Pearson. And Assistant Town Manager Martelli is there, so I was going to say, yeah. No, you're certainly
No,
welcome to.
I'm just here for
but
backup.
He's anxious to get mic time, so.
So it's pretty straightforward. It's a year contract for our various hearings. It's a $300 a month retainage, which I think is a great deal. That is based on if there's no hearings or there's several hearings within the course of the month, we pay a flat $300 fee to Bruce Diamond, who's local attorney. So this also covers its parking, towing, inland wetlands, alarm fines, blight prevention hearings. And then I also just need to add to this, it's also for fair housing, which is just not in the document that made it into your packet, but it will be in the contract that Sean will sign upon your hopeful approval. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Jinks?
I do have a couple quick questions. One is there always hearings every month?
No.
There is not. So even when there isn't a hearing, is he still getting paid for that month?
Yes.
He is, okay.
So he gets paid regardless. of
Whether or not there's a
$300,
hearing.
But sometimes there's a lot. So some months he makes $300 for not hearing any,
Right.
and then others for several. But again, these, with Monica now on board with the blight prevention, if it does get to that level, hopefully it doesn't, but we do have the attorney on retainer for that.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to item D, the commitment to participate in Regional Natural Hazard Mitigation Planning Grant Program. Ms. Kramer.
Be it resolved that the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031125-4. Be it resolved that the Town Council approves the Town of Cheshire's commitment to participate in the Regional Natural Hazard Mitigation Planning Grant Program. And be it further resolved, the funding for the required match will be allocated from the Planning Department budget in fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027. And therefore be it resolved that the town manager is authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the town any documents for the commitment to this grant program as presented and discussed.
We have a motion and a second from Ms. Pearson. Back to you, Mr. Martelli.
Sure, so it's a pretty long explanation there, but I'll do my best to summarize it. Currently, there is a plan that Cheshire's part of, so back in 2020, let's see, before I was here, we participated and we added to the match in order to be part of the FEMA plan for the 19-town region. Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, which we're part of, they are actually going to be writing a grant for $400,000 to develop a new plan, which will cover the town of Cheshire. So each municipality that's going to participate in that plan has to add a match to it, and so that's what this money would be for. I'd just like to point out, if we don't partner with COG, who's going to submit the grant application and manage the process, and we'd have to do it ourselves. So it's great to be part of this regional type planning process, and FEMA appreciates it. And if there is a major issue that we do need to seek FEMA financial assistance for, we need to be part of a plan, whether it's part of the 19-town plan or if we have our own. So I think it's prudent for us to move forward with this.
Questions for Mr. Martelli? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Item E is the adoption of Town Manager's 25 goals and objectives. Back to you, Ms. Kramer.
Be it resolved, the Town Council approves Resolution Number 031125-5. Be it resolved that the Town Council hereby approves the Town Manager's 2025 goals and objectives as presented.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Jinks. Mr. Kimball, do you want to?
Sure, I'll be very brief, but just following up on our meeting from February 25th, where some of us participated virtually. We had our discussion on the town manager's goals and objectives. I incorporated those edits and changes that we made during the meeting, and so you'll see those contained in this document, and then just kind of cleaned it up and obviously took out the last 2 pages that included past goals and things like that we had as placeholders. So this finalizes the document, and then happy to answer any questions or also make any additional edits if you would like us to do that tonight. But our goal is to get this adopted as soon as possible.
Questions? Mr. Milone and then Mr. Veliber.
Actually, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Sean for taking the time to meet with us, hearing us, and incorporating, I think, very thoroughly just about everything we went through, so thank you.
Mr. Veliber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to echo what Councilman Milone had said. For me, the big thing that I was concerned about, and I would thank you for incorporating this into, which was the identify funding to retain professional services to develop long-term streetscape planning for South Main Street business development there under the key objectives and goal number 1. I think that's important. I know we're working on a lot of new projects, but it was also important that we look at ways to provide assistance and opportunities to redevelop and spruce up some of the existing structures and commercial areas we have, including the very vibrant south end of Cheshire as well. Yeah, exactly.
Anyone else? Mr. Jenks?
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what John and Dave have said, but also that it's an ambitious agenda for the next year. I think we've had ambitious agendas the last several years, but it's a lot of work, obviously. But I appreciate all of the all of our input and your work on this, Sean. Is this, I assume this goes up on the town website, right? Is this
It
posted
will
somewhere?
be posted on the town website. You will also see it in your budget books, which you have before you, and in a number of other spots as well. But we'll make sure we have a copy of this. It does go on the town manager's page of the website. We could also put it up as a news alert, but it is in the budget documents as well.
Right, okay. So for everyone watching, it's a good document to get an idea of all the things that we're trying to do as a town and kind of the values and all the projects and things you see happening, and it's a good kind of summary of what we're hoping to achieve and not only this year but even going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenks. I will, Ms. Pearson, yeah.
Yeah, just echo all of my counselors, fellow counselors. Thanks to Sean for really listening to us, adding additional objectives, which I know gives you a great deal more work. But like Jim indicated, this is a vision document. It's a living document. It evolves and changes as we evolve and change as a community. And again, I appreciate everyone's work in putting this together, and particularly Sean for helping us to execute all of this. I'm looking forward to working with you this next year.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will reiterate what I said at the meeting when we discussed this, and that is that this really needs to be a living, breathing document. I too appreciate the work that you put into this and that you use as a roadmap for or with department heads to move the town forward. But I would like to get a meeting sometime in June. The June timeframe, I think, is what we kind of settled on, where we can, give this a quick review and just make sure that we're on target for all of these, so. Did you want to make any final comments?
No,
or-
I was only going to just say exactly what I think both you and Fiona said there at the end, which is that this is a guiding document for all of our departments as well. So yes, it is the town manager's goals and objectives. It's also the town council's goals and objectives, and it's really informs all of the goals and objectives of our departments who do a lot of the work behind the scenes to make these things happen. So thank you for your support and the conversation.
And with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And we will go right into item 9 to give Mr. Kimball a chance to work on goal number 2 right off the bat, and that is the town manager's report and communications.
All right, thank you very much. So I will start with the town manager's report, the regular monthly report, which you have there in your civic clerk document. Starting out with, and I know Patty just left, but kudos to Patty, who has launched the new online portal for vital records. Vital records requests through Permidium as of March 7th, so just last week. There's a link under vital records on the town clerk's page, brings customers to a portal where they can order and pay online for birth and marriage and death certificates. There's a $7 additional fee that goes to Permidium for the convenience, but in exchange, residents do not have to pay an annual fee for the service they may never need. And we're really excited to see residents are already starting to take advantage of this. Under Planning and Development, FHI Studio has been engaged to perform the planning and engineering services for the multimodal transportation plan, and there should be meetings being scheduled very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. Under Park and Rec, the leprechauns have arrived in Cheshire. This year's leprechaun hunt encourages families to take pictures with a minimum of 4 felt leprechauns that are hidden in Bartlam, Cheshire, and Mixville parks. There will be a live leprechaun in one of the parks from 2 to 3 p.m. on the 14th, so keep your eyes out. Bring pictures to Cheshire Park and Rec during normal business hours for your bag of gold. With Cheshire Public Schools spring break approaching, there are also some great events being offered. April 12th is the Cheshire Lions Easter egg hunt. April 15th, the Steve Horvath Fishing Derby at Mixville Park. April 16th, the Mixville Muck Run. April 17th, the always popular Touch a Truck at Bartland Park. And April 17th, the Gentle Easter Egg Hunt at Bartland Park. So please visit Cheshire MyRec for more information. Cheshire has announced March is National Nutrition Month. They are hosting Nutrition Talk on March 25th at the Cheshire Public Library, 4:30, and also a grocery store tour on April 1st at the Cheshire Stop and Shop at 4:30. To join these events, please call Cheshire to register. Just a reminder again that we are in the filing period for the elderly and 100% disabled tax credit application. Those run from February 1st to May 15th. More information on the assessor's webpage. Our Youth Services Department of the Cheshire Public Library won the Cheshire Public Schools School Partnership Award, and they've been asked to attend the next Board of Education meeting on March 20th. One of our children's librarians, Storyanne Nessingham, is nominated to receive this award, and congratulations to our wonderful Youth Services librarians. At Cheshire Senior Center, the Community Health Fair and Blood Drive will be held at the Senior Center on Thursday, March 13th. The health fair features various community health-related vendors, including Hartford Healthcare, Elam Park, and the YMCA, and a blood drive runs from 1 to 6 p.m., with the health fair running from 1 to 4 p.m. The Chamber of Commerce Home Health and Garden Show is scheduled for March 29th at Cheshire High School from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., with also the favorite Kiwanis breakfast running from 8 to 11 a.m. So please come for this spring kickoff for food, fun, prizes, crafts, demos, and interactive displays. And you'll see a picture there of our under construction in the basement of the Town Hall Annex. The new Emergency Operations Center construction is underway. Olympic construction is in the construction phase, and demolition is complete. And as you see in the picture there, the steel studs have been installed. And other than that, you'll see a couple of upcoming council meetings. Our Ordinance Review Committee is meeting on this Thursday. Our next regular meeting is April 8th. But in the meantime, we will have about 8 budget workshops there scheduled, which again, I'll be going through just in a minute as we go through the budget. So obviously, this is a very busy time for the council as we take on the budget, which I will segue right into, unless there's any questions on the monthly report first.
Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate all the activities that the Park and Rec has been doing. There's so many things, and I hope the residents will take part in a lot of these things. I credit John Golick and the Park and Rec committee and all the employees there. I think they're getting a lot of use out of the parks that we have and getting a lot of use. I do have one question. The Gentle Easter Egg Hunt, is it the 17th? When is the not so gentle one? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Anything else for Mr. Kimball before we dive into the budget? The department reports are in your packets for police, fire, and economic development. Just on a side note, today was the 3rd police officer swearing in that I have attended in the past 3 months. So we now have Dakota, Tyler, and as of today, Adam, who has been sworn into the Cheshire Police Department. And all 3 of them will be attending the academy together, so there is strength in numbers. And with today's, Adam becomes the 48th sworn officer, which puts us up to our number, which, according to Chief Drife, has not happened in some time. And when it did happen, it only happened for about 4 months. So let's hope that we keep this going for longer than 4 months. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kimball for the budget.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will try to make this as brief as possible. I know in the past I've gone on for some time. There's a lot to talk about here, and I know we have a lot of meetings to go through all of this, but there's a lot of very important information for the public here, and the impact of what is a very, very, very challenging budget for a variety of reasons that I'm going to delve into, a number of which I know the council and certainly the budget committee is certainly well aware of as we've been talking over the last 6 weeks. But let's just get right into it if that's okay with you. So tonight, I'm presenting the town manager's proposed budget. Pursuant to Section 7-1 of the town charter, the operating budget must be transmitted to the town council by March 10th, which it was delivered yesterday, and the formal budget books themselves, in addition to the electronic copy, were sent over today at the dais here when you came for the meeting. In addition, the annual capital budget and 5-year capital expenditure plan must be transmitted to the town council by July 15th. And as I've done for the last few years, I have been submitting the two of them at the same time, allowing us to consider both as they certainly impact each other in many, many ways, including debt service, but also operations. And so we take that up typically towards the end of April or May and try to have those projects approved in the June timeframe, ahead of our charter deadlines. Tonight, I'm going to start with just a brief budget history, followed by a discussion of revenues and the challenges we're facing this year. That is influenced by the grand list that was filed in October, which informs this upcoming fiscal 26 budget. Then talk about expenditures and major budget drivers, the mill rate and average taxpayer impact, and then a little brief slide on the general fund balance and reserves. In addition, I am charged with presenting the community pool and WPCD special revenue fund budgets. And again, I will summarize the 5-year capital plan, and I'll list the major annual capital budget projects that I am recommending for the first year of the capital plan. And finally, I'll end with the schedule, and all of this information will be on our website for folks to follow along later at their leisure. So budget history, starting back in March of 2020, 5 years ago, when COVID first onset, in the middle of actually right on this very night as we were presenting the budget, we started to have the beginnings of lockdown. That budget, we held a no mill rate, no tax increase by relying on $2 million of fund equity brought on by cuts and freezes for the budget surplus that year. We cut pandemic-impacted services and froze positions. The following year, developing the fiscal 22 budget, we had a 0.5 mill rate increase of 1.5%. To do so, we had $1.4 million of ARPA funds as general fund revenue. Also incorporated $1.5 million of ARPA into the medical trust fund of the Board of Education, and an additional $325,000 of ARPA for bulky waste in that upcoming budget year. The next year in fiscal 23, a 0.6 mil increase, used $500,000 of ARPA funds for CNR projects and another $1.7 million of fund equity supported by the budget surplus in that year. Fiscal 24, we had a 0.77 mil rate increase, which is about a 2.24% increase, used $800,000 of ARPA funds as general fund revenue for the purchase of 2 properties, also $280,000 for townwide bulky waste, and another $2 million of fund equity reserves supported by the prior year's budget surplus. And lastly, the budget we're in right now, the year we're in right now, fiscal 25, this last year, of course, very much impacted by revaluation. We had a 7.63 mill rate decrease, of course, offset by larger property values. We used $1.3 million of ARPA this year as general fund revenue to balance the budget. That was the remaining funds of ARPA, so those are gone now. And another $2.25 million of fund equity supported by a very robust budget surplus in the prior year. So that's what brings us to the revenues we're expecting for fiscal 26. And as you'll see as a theme throughout this presentation, there are areas of the budget where we've had challenges in the past, and often we've been able to rely on other areas, whether it's revenues to expenditures or state aid to help mitigate or grand list growth. And in this year, really all of the major levers that we normally have experienced declines and challenges. So starting with the governor's budget, there were significant cuts to Cheshire, $836,000 cut from our last year's state pilot and education cost share funding. We anticipated, we discussed last budget year, that we were going to lose $1 million of the motor vehicle cap reimbursement because, again, our mill rate fell under the 32.46 mil cap that the state imposed, and that they offset and reimburse communities for the loss from that cap. Because our mill rate fell to 27.46, that made us ineligible this year for reimbursement. So we knew we were going to lose that $1 million, but that is still a budget-to-budget loss in the revenue column of our budget. And additionally, the $500,000 that we budgeted this year for the municipal revenue sharing account, if you recall, 2 years in a row, we received over $600,000 or $700,000 from this sales tax supported MRS fund. And this year, they notified us in the fall they were not going to fund anything this year. So budget to budget, that's another $500,000 loss of all the years. So that is $2.4 million of lost state aid compared with the adopted budget that we had for the year we're in right now. Additionally, as I just mentioned, we lost $1.3 million of ARPA funds because those had to be committed by December of last year. So those are not available to us, of course, next year as we've spent all of our ARPA funds. So again, budget to budget, that's $1.3 million. That creates a hole in the budget. Moving on, last year, as I just said, we utilized $2.25 million of transfer from reserves. This year, my recommended budget doesn't sustain that same amount, so I cut that amount by $1 million to $1.25 million. So again, budget to budget, that's $1 million loss. If you take all of those revenue factors that I just listed on the last two slides, that sums up to $4.7 million in lost revenue. That alone, before we talk about any expenditures, represents a 1.16 mil increase in taxes, or about a 4.2% tax increase, before we even talk about revenue, talk about expenditures. So just, I know that's something we've discussed. We talked about that with the Budget Committee back in January, but that's the fiscal reality and the landscape that we're facing here on the revenue side of the ledger. The grand list in many years is there to help us in these times. We've had a lot of growth and development in town. It's a place that we've been looking to and will be looking to in the future. We had grand list growth of $37 million. That's just under 1%. Real estate values grew by $56 million. That's a very robust year in a non-reval grand list. Personal property grew by $9 million. Unfortunately, the state mandated a change to the methodology for assigning motor vehicle values, so that cost us $27.6 million off of our grand list because there's a new depreciation schedule that towns are forced to use. That is good news. This one's a little bit of better news for the taxpayer in that well, on average, folks will see a decrease in the value of their vehicles. There will certainly be exceptions to that, but that is a consideration as we do our mill rate calculation, that it's a slight relief overall to taxpayers. But either way, from budgeting standpoint, it is a loss to our grand list, bringing that total to $37.5 million. So here's the bigger factor is Stonebridge Crossing is responsible for $35.3 million of the value increases on those parcels that have a credit enhancement agreement. So the challenge is a little bit of a delayed gratification situation where we can't quite tap into the full potential and benefit from a tax revenue standpoint of the North End development until that credit enhancement agreement obligations are satisfied. So 75% of the taxes from that added value is diverted away from the general fund and into the TIF district. So ultimately, of those value increases I was talking about before, that 75% totals just about $34 million. So as I said at the very top of this slide, all the rest of the grand list was $37 million. So if $34 million of it can't support the general fund, you're basically left with about a $3.5 million of value, which is a 0.08% growth in our grand list. So for all intents and purposes, the grand list is flat from a general fund revenue standpoint. Here's a depiction of the last, really since 1993, grand list growth in non-revaluation years. Those gaps you see are revaluation years where the numbers can get skewed away from actual growth. We've had a very robust last 6 years. Even the reval year was well over 1.3 or 1.5%. So we've had a strong tradition, and 0.94 is just under the average that we experienced from the entire 2000 to 2017 time period. Just a slide showing the revenues. Again, unfortunately, property taxes are a greater and greater share of our budget. In this case, $124 million out of the $150 million proposed budget, as those other pie pieces, pilot, state aid, town department revenue, and general fund equity continue to shrink. So, as if I haven't depressed you enough, I will move on to expenditures. This is the operating budget as proposed. It is a total of $150.2 million, or an increase of 7.34%. This is all on the expenditure side. So I'll get into general government in a minute. Actually, I'll just go straight from this into the first of those tabs. The five major tabs are general government, which is, of course, our town government side, education, the Board of Ed, debt service, which we share between the two, or on Board of Ed and on town projects, capital non-recurring, cash funding, and contingency. So on the Board of Education request, that's the major driver of this budget. The Board of Education recommended a $6.2 million increase. That is the largest dollar increase in history of the town. $1.5 million of that, a 10.9% increase, is for medical benefit budget lines. And also 70 additional K-12 students results in a recommendation from the superintendent and Board of Ed of an increase of 3.5 additional staff positions. So I've not modified this budget. Again, they will be here on Tuesday night to be discussing the budget in earnest. And but again, 6.2 million of the overall 10 million is the largest driver of the expenditure budget. Second largest driver being debt service, which is almost entirely due to financing the 2 new elementary school projects. It's an increase of 28.4%, or $2.6 million of an increase in debt service. This follows last year, as the council knows, fiscal 25, we adopted debt service increase of $1.6 million, or a 20% increase in debt service last year. So that brings you to the total, if I go back, of debt service now recommended, you'll see there in the middle of $11.8 million of a 28.4% total increase. So here's some charts showing the future projected budget. This will really inform our conversations, I think, around capital. You'll see I made a lot of substantial cuts to the capital request this year later in this presentation. The reason I did that is because this chart is showing future debt service, and we have to have some hard conversations, I think, about all of the capital requests that we have in the 5-year capital plan, because they're informing some of these significant debt service continued increases in future budgets. So that's more to come on that conversation. Back to the general government side, here's kind of the major budget drivers. I just talked about Board of Ed on the first line and debt service. I did recommend a reduction in the capital non-recurring cash funding. This is cash for capital. Usually we budget, this last year we budgeted 1.1 million, and I reduced that by 100,000, trying to get some operational relief here. And also our contingency, which we budgeted at 125,000 for many, many years. I just lowered that to 100,000. That's why you see those two red numbers. Back to our relatively smaller portion of the budget on the town side, general government. These are the major budget drivers that we experienced. Salary and minimum wage increases across all of our departments totaled $702,000. Solid waste collection and disposal costs, which we'll talk a lot about, totaled $204,000. Community pool subsidy increases, again, their fund balance for the community pool due to a number of unanticipated expenditures and other maintenance issues that they've had, have eaten into the fund balance that they have had, and so now we're in a position where the town has to go back to funding the full subsidy of the pool. You'll recall that the pool's budget is roughly, well, I'll get into that later, about 1.3 million, and they collect about 800,000 in revenues, so the town fills that $500,000 gap in operational funding for the pool. Last year we budgeted about 300,000, so this is an increase of 200 back to the $500,000. Liability and workers' comp insurance cost increases combined total about 144,000, and pension, actually mostly 457, 401A cost expense increases totaled $108,000. All the other budget changes in the entire general government side of the budget account for just 0.14%, or $202,000. So all told, there's that 10.2 million that I mentioned on the first slide, and those are the major drivers, key components of that. Here they are broken out in graphical form. You'll see the Board of Education with the requested $95.7 million is the largest share of the operating budget, and you'll see other major departmental function areas there on the slide. So just to summarize, kind of putting it all in one slide, is a version of a document we discussed on January 28th with the Budget Committee. The revenues, starting again with revenues, state pilot and ECS, you'll see what we budgeted there in 25 and what we budgeted in 26, or are budgeting in 26 so far in my recommended budget. A loss of $900,000. These are rounded numbers now. The state MRSA funding I mentioned at $500,000, the motor vehicle tax cap grant at $1 million, ARPA at 1.3, and general fund equity. That's that 4.7 million that I referenced after the first few slides. And then on the expenditure side, you see the increase of the Board of Ed at 6.2, debt service 2.6, and the town's budget of $1.5 million increase. Those total 10.3, and if you put those together, that's a $15 million gap. It has to be made up of, and as I explained before, can't be made up from the grand list growth, as we might be able to experience in other years. So if you just take $15 million and you divide it by the value of a mill, our grand list is $4 billion, just a little hair over $4 billion. That makes the value of a mill $4,050,000. If you divide 15 million by 4.05 million, you get 3.7 mills, which is a 13.5% increase, and that ends up being the mill increase that I've had to recommend in this budget. Obviously, there's more complicated formulas that go into that, but this happens to equate to the same number, kind of truing up and showing that there's really no other major factors in this budget. A note there, for every 1.1 million in additional revenue or expenditure cuts, the tax increase would be reduced by 1%. So if we're able to find another 1.1 million, that 13.5% drops to 12.5%, 11.5%, so on, just as a kind of a order of magnitude number. So here's the mill rate impact for the average taxpayer with 2 vehicles. This is, again, using the property values from the last revaluation. The average assessed value in town is $297,000 for a house. That's a full market value of about $425,000. At this year's mill rate, that's 27.46 mills. That equates to taxes on the average house of $8,175. And on the proposed 31.16 mill rate, the impact would increase those taxes to $9,277. On the 2 vehicles, you'll see the value of the vehicles on average did fall from full value of 19.2 to 18.2. But with that significant mill rate increase, you still see the taxes on 2 vehicles going from $350 each, or $700 total, to $727 total. That brings the total tax bill increase, again, about 12.7% to $1,129. So substantial work remains, which we will certainly be discussing through all of the budget workshops. One of the areas that we can discuss a little bit more, as I said, I'm budgeting $1.25 million for reserves, the rainy day fund, if you will. This chart, folks are used to seeing, shows the one kind of glimmer of positivity we've had over the last few years is we've had very substantial budget surpluses. We've had some unanticipated revenues in prior years. We've also held the line on spending, certainly on the town side, and returned funds each year where we could. And that's resulted in, last year's surplus was, I think, over $3.5 million. So that has supported, the operations that we've had and their ability, as we knew, to budget some of those general fund reserves in the current year's budget. Here you have the available fund balance, or the unassigned fund balance from fiscal 25, projected to be $7.4 million. These are the results from operations during the year, estimated revenues and estimated expenditures. That's estimating a additional surplus this year of just over $1 million, again, less than in prior years, but that would still bring our available fund balance projected at the end of this year to $18.5 million. As I just said, I'm anticipating in my proposed budget that we'll use $1.25 million of that to support the budget that's before you now. After that $1.25 million, you see towards the bottom of the slide, that would bring our projected unassigned fund balance to $17.2 million. That's unassigned, uncommitted fund balance reserves for the town. That is a 12.36% of the fiscal 25 expenditures. Our policy is to maintain that amount over 10%. So 12.36 is, of course, over 10%, and the amount that it's over 10% is $3.3 million. That's that last line on the slide there. Sorry, the print is a little small on this slide, but this document is in your budget book, of course, and we will be talking about that as one of the areas that we may have some conversation around what our options are. All right, so just quickly on the community pool, as I said before, it's a $1.3 million proposed budget. I have asked that they increase their revenues from the $775,000 we budgeted last year to about $815,000 in the next year, in part because I was trying to control the subsidy on the town side at $500,000 or less. So they would need to increase their revenues by about $35,000 in order for us to accomplish that. And again, as I said, they've had the pressures of an aging facility, including boiler repairs and replacements, roof leaks, and pool decking issues. Water pollution control proposed budget is $5.3 million, an increase of $228,000 So far, there's a recommended $5 sewer fee increase. We'll be coming back to that when we meet with them. There's a proposed $320,000 use of reserve fund equity. For the current year, their reserves are only projected to be about $542,000 or 10.2%. So I'm concerned that that would bring it even lower, down to $221,000 if all held true during the next fiscal year. So that's a consideration as we go through whether we want to recommend an increase to that sewer fee or, as we will probably do, make some operational cuts to the expenditure budget to not have that number be quite so high. All right, on the home stretch here, 5-year capital plan, again, historically reviewed in the summer and approved by August 30th. It includes a 5-year capital plan for expenditures, but remember that year one is the only year that's actually appropriated as the annual capital budget. I received $162.7 million of requests from departments in the Board of Education. I reduced those by $10.8 million for a recommended full 5-year plan of $151.8 million. That's a decrease of $777,000 compared with last year's adopted plan. It's important to note there are offsetting grants and available CNR cash funding of $25.1 million, which reduces the cost that would be bonded should all 5 years of those projects be approved to $126 million. Adopted 5-year CEPs have averaged $127 million and 97 net over the last 5 years. Here's that in graphical form, showing all of the last 10 years of adopted 5-year capital plans. And so for this next year, for the first year, I'm recommending $7.7 million of first-year projects. That includes $360,000 for technology and security upgrades between the town and Board of Ed, $422,000 total across about 5 or 6 departments for vehicles and equipment, grounds equipment replacement, $200,000 for animal control facility upgrades, $200,000 for firefighter equipment and protective clothing, $1.1 million for the replacement of a 2001 fire pumper engine, $400,000 for the road improvement program, $400,000 for Weeks Road intersection improvements, $350,000 for Farmington Drive culvert improvements, $1.175 for WPCD equipment, pump station, and facility improvements, $235,000 for various community pool improvements, and $1.247 million for the Mixville Park Phase 2 improvements. The council authorized the steep grant of $1 million for that project last month. $1.3 million of projects requested for the Board of Education. All of these documents are available on our shiny new website, and you'll see a link there. The first tab under News brings you to all of the budget documents for folks to follow along at home. And our budget calendar, we have, again, our first public hearing. The only meeting that's going to be at 7 p.m. Is in council chambers here a week from tonight. That's the public hearing on the proposed budget, but it is also the very important Board of Education budget workshop. That following Thursday will be over at the fire department for fire, civil preparedness, police, and animal control at 6:30. Tuesday, March 25th, will be over at the Water Pollution Control Conference Room on Cheshire Street. That's for Public Works, Public Property Engineering, and WPCD. Tuesday, April 1st at 6:30 here in Town Hall for Finance, Debt Service, CNR Revenues, and IT. That Thursday, April 30th at 6:30 at the Cheshire Public Library for Human Services, Library, and Employee Benefits budgets. And last but not least, Thursday, April 10th at 6:30 at Arts Place. Remember, that's 430 West Main Street at the Ball and Socket facility for Recreation, Community Pool, and the Arts Place budgets. We do have a proposed April 22nd council public information session and additional budget review, and April 24th, tentative 6:30 p.m. Proposed adoption. And I just would like to thank our team budget. We've worked through the last couple of weekends here. Sharon Sherma, Gina DeFilio, Jim Jascott, Hope Larson, Donna Willett, Noel Shepard, Andrew Martelli, Arnett Talbot, who helped us out just a little bit this year, and Christine McCardle, Anne-Marie Burr, and Jamie Lemaire, and all of our department heads. So thank you very much for your attention. I know it's a lot of information, but we're excited to get this process started.
Which one of my depressed colleagues would like to go first? Sure, Mr. Mylon.
Sean, what does thank you at the end mean?
What's that?
What are you thanking us for?
That is a great question. There was a lot of work behind these 574 pages, but yes, the point is well taken. It's a lot of tough information, I know, but I thank everyone for their diligence and attention to this very important effort.
in all honesty. I mean, it's going to take a while to absorb it and.
Yes, yep.
Actually, thank you for presenting it so thoroughly.
And we're going to have a bunch of meetings to do that, so. Anyone else? Yeah.
Just a quick question. I am sure we'll get into it later, but the state, the pilot and the ECS funding, what percentage of that 900,000 is pilot versus ECS? Is most of it ECS stuff?
No, it was the opposite. ECS was like 300 and pilot was about 600 cut, right?
So the state's just not paying us for the property they have in their town?
Yeah, if you'll recall, pilot has moved around a little recently. We partnered with the city of New Haven to advocate for what they called a new tiered pilot calculation a couple of budgets ago. For those communities, New Haven had reached out to other communities that had large state facilities, and ourselves having the prison property, we were on that list. And through that advocacy, that budget year, we were able to see a pretty significant increase in our pilot. And I'm still trying to get our arms around exactly what has happened this year, but it's like it's gone back, a pendulum all the way back to where it was before. And towns were not all similarly impacted. So it tells me there's another change to the formula or calculation, and we're just going to have to get some clarity on that. And of course, we're advocating for towns to be held harmless and to have that. And I hope, and I would encourage folks to do the same. To our legislative delegation, I know Peter and I talked about that just this morning, trying to make sure that we're held, we're held harmless against some of those cuts, because it's bad in any year, but it's coming in a particularly bad budget year for us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sean. I appreciate the update, and I think to Mr. Mylone's point, we'll have plenty of time to get into this, and there'll be a lot of tough questions that get asked along the way, so. With that, we'll move on to item 10, reports of committees of the council. A chairman's report, starting to my left with Ms. Kramer.
Personnel, nothing to report other than a bunch of different contracts have been gone through and worked on, namely Sean's, I believe.
Mr. Wolf. Nothing to report. Ms. Allard?
So the ordinance review will be meeting, lost that, on Thursday. And other than that, that's it.
Mr. Jinks, you'll have your opportunity coming up, but if there's anything you want to do quickly here.
I was just going to say, as far as the process, it's going to be a little bit different this year in that we're not going to necessarily go through each and every department line by line, although if you have questions about things like for the elections or one of the departments we may not be getting a presentation from, there will be time in each meeting to raise those questions, so we can still discuss them. But we're trying to focus on the kind of larger, get presentations from the larger departments, and also really focus on the capital stuff at the same time from those larger departments. So that's why the schedule of the presentations have been kind of skinny down a little bit, but that's a little bit of a change to what we normally have done. And I think we'll also have public comment at the end of each meeting, at least as a block, where so if people are there, they can actually ask us questions and give us their thoughts and stuff. So that's an additional part of our schedule to be included as well.
Ms. Pearson?
Nothing to report.
For miscellaneous, Ms. Shepherd, if you would send me the email addresses for our town delegation at the state capitol. I want to send an email to our delegation, kind of pleading our case for the loss of revenue that we're seeing, and I will certainly copy my colleagues on the email that I send to the delegation. Back over to my left for Number 11, appointments A, liaison reports. Ms. Kramer?
Environment, nothing to report.
Mr. Wolf? Ms. Allard?
The Public Safety Committee met on February 13th. I just wanted to thank former Chairwoman Lauren Mealy for her service to our community. Welcome Matt Hall. There's a lot of good energy, and I'm looking forward to all of the good stuff that they're going to be doing. Also, the Youth and Human Services Department, or committee, met on March 5th. Welcome to the new members to that group as well. They had a lot of lively discussion, a lot of great things happening in town that Sean already mentioned, but also just to be on the lookout at the mobile gas stations. There's going to be public service announcements that are going to be played regarding vaping, cannabis, anti-bullying, social media, kindness, and mental health. And also, I just wanted to say, just to put it on the record, that I know everybody knows in town that we did have a pretty traumatic loss here in town of a young student, and I wanted to express my gratitude to the Youth and Human Services Department, to our first responders, to our town, to our Board of Ed, to everybody in the community who has expressed compassion, and I'm really proud of our town for all of that kindness. And that's it.
Absolutely appropriate. Thank you, Ms. Allard. Mr. Jinks?
Sure. So for water pollution control, as some of you I think are aware, the I&I study has sort of begun. They put the monitoring devices throughout town. I think there are 30 or 32 of them, I think. So now we are basically hoping over the next month and a half for a good rain. Hopefully one storm that's an inch or more, I guess is what we're looking for. So if anyone has a good rain dance, let's do that. Let's do that now.
Please bring it on. Yes. Ms. Pearson?
Energy Commission met. Welcome to the new members, Ryan Shannon and Matt Smith. They reviewed the POCD plan contributions from the Energy Commission that they're sharing with Planning and P and Z. And we also talked a little bit about the RFP for energy efficiencies in the schools and our municipal buildings. And actually, we had our first meeting as a group last night with Energia, our buyer's rep, to review 3 proposals. So there were 3 RFPs that came in to examine those energy efficiencies. Parks and Rec, the Environment Commission was present, and Sean Henry from the Environment Commission presented a request for working with Department of Public Works and Parks and Rec to clear a trail in Boulder Knoll property. I guess behind there are some trails that exist that have been relatively abandoned for the last couple of years. Sean Henry had an excellent presentation on those trail systems, so he's going to be working with John Galwalk on helping to clear some of those trails and revitalize some of those trails. There were also some concerns about hunters on our public land as well. So that was something that was brought to John Galwalk's attention. Late spring, the disc golf course is going to be opening, and right now I guess they're waiting on the boiler for the pool, which they've been waiting for a while, I believe.
Mr. Kimball, I will volunteer to fire the first tee shot if you'd like. Mr. Walsh?
Thank you. The Town Beautification Committee met, actually, they met twice since our last meeting, because one was a week later. We did see, they did approve a couple of signages for Stonegate, the big signs that will be going up on the property there. That's pretty cool looking. They did see a sign that they're going to be putting at Mixville. They don't have to approve it, but it's a town sign for the Greg Sheena ice rink. They also had a new sign made over at the industrial park using the old steel beam. They painted it over. Looks really nice there. I think Andrew was instrumental in that, so thank you for that. And they're moving forward with their tree planting program. They will also be at the Home Health and Garden Show on the 29th, so hopefully everybody will go there. And I believe Bill Bonamino is got birdhouses and plants and everything, so it's going to be great. One other thing on the Cheshire Housing Authority, they are slowly dismantling the building there. They're selling off some of the parts of the building, I guess some of it's older, and so they're going to be doing that. I think they're hoping to start demolition April or May for Jack's Farm down there. So that will be an exciting thing that's coming soon. And they also will be at the Home Health and Garden Show, as will I. Thank you.
Mr. Velber
No report.
and Mr. Malone.
No report.
Thank you very much. Which brings us to appointments. Do you have anything, Mr. Velber? We do have some cleanup stuff that I'm going to throw to Mr. Wolf. I did have a conversation with Mr. Bartley about this. We're just doing some kind of moving pieces around with Historic District. And then some of it, the second part of what Mr. Wolf will do tonight is some cleanup for Ms. King, that she wanted to know specifically whose term was being replaced. So just so it's clear cut with this one left and this one came in. So, and with that long preamble, I will turn it over to Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let's start with the appointment of Helen Wilson on the Historic District Commission is a new appointment that follows the term of Kevin Daly of 3/11/25 to 1/31/30. She's a Democrat. Just follow me here. Now we are appointing Kevin Daly as a new appointment following the term of Helen Wilson, the term of 3/11/25 to 1/31/26. He's a Democrat. And then James Vibert Sr. is a new appointment following the term of Lisa Franco, 3/11/25 to 1/31/27. He is a Democrat. And then on to the cleanup page.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I say?
Yeah.
So I assume Kevin Daly has officially resigned from that position?
No, so
Because he was appointed.
so how it's going to work is Kevin was appointed as a full term.
Right.
So Helen Wilson was an alternate. So Helen Wilson is going to now be a full term. Kevin is going to be the alternate.
Right, but he has to resign his position as full term. The council appointed, I'm just clear, just for
Yeah.
record. I mean, as a point where
Yeah.
he was officially appointed to that position as a full commissioner, remember? So I guess in order for there to be a vacancy for Helen to fill, I think he has to officially resign that position, correct?
I will check with Patty. She didn't indicate that was the case, but I will check with her to make sure.
All right, because I was just wondering, I just want to make, because I want to make sure, obviously,
Yep.
right now, he was appointed, and so, normally,
they're-
in order to
they're
create the vacancy,
swapping
he'd have to
there.
resign
Yep.
it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You understand the way it's, okay. Yep, I appreciate that.
And then on that one, you don't need to do the one for Historic District.
So this is just a cleanup sheet. Joanne Giddings on the Beautification Committee follows the term of Patricia Archibald. Ryan Shannon on the Energy Commission follows the term of George Tucker Deming. Matt Smith on the Energy Commission follows the term of David Gavin. Chuck Thompson on the Inland Wetlands and Water Pollution Control follows the term of Carol Doheny. Heather Fitzgerald in Park and Rec follows the term of Robert J. Santoro. Patricia Matola on the Performing and Fine Arts Commission follows the term of Ophelia Frazier. Matt Hall on the Public Safety Commission follows the term of Lauren Miele. Ned Cullinan on the WPCA Commission follows the term of Jason Beach. Carol Doheny on the WPCA follows the term of Zach Welburn. Sally LaRusso on the Youth and Human Services Commission follows the term of Nicole Davison. Margie Rogers of the Youth and Human Services follows the term of Alexandra Miele. And Christina Veliu, I apologize if I said that wrong, on the Youth and Human Services alternate follows the term of Margie Rogers.
All right, so we
That's
have
about
the three appointments, and I will accept a second, Mr. Velber, on the three appointments. Thank you for that. And we will clarify the need to do any resignations or whatever, especially with those two positions where a regular is going to an alternate and an alternate is going to a regular.
Right, and we've had this discussion, because the chairman reached out to me as well as I'm sure to you as well, just to see. He kind of caught him a little blindsided as to what was happening, so, but I think this is where he thought it was gonna end up, which is
Yep.
good for the historic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, motion passes unanimously. Mr. D'Onofrio, anything for number 12, Town Attorney?
Not in public session.
Council Communication, number 13. Anyone have letters to the council? Mr. Jinks?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I think several of us have received a letter about the mail issue over on, off of Wallingford Road. And I was curious if, this could be maybe a question for Sean, referring to the mail, the delivery of mail to the neighborhood, was it Withering Pines, is that what it's called?
Whispering, yeah.
Whispering Pines.
Whispering
Not Withering
Oaks.
Pines.
Whispering Oaks.
Whispering Oaks, okay. I pretty much had it. So what I'm wondering is, I know there is only so much we can do with the Postal Service, obviously with the post office. It's a this issue, as long as many other issues have been brought to a number of us over the years with our post office. But I'm wondering on this particular issue if there is something that we could perhaps do in terms of a regulation or an ordinance to try and kind of make it so that, wherever there are new developments in town, everyone kind of is treated the same way. The couple people, or at least one person in that neighborhood there, brought to my attention that, their development there is similar in timing to the one, it's Melrose, it's off of Weiss and Academy. Those developments are similar, but they have mailboxes and they've been getting mail there apparently. I know it's kind of up to the developer to some degree. I'm just wondering if there's something, if it's a planning and zoning issue, whatever the case may be, if there's something that we can do as a community to try and make it so that this isn't such an issue for, certain developments in town.
Yeah, I was just asking Jeff a little bit, but I'll see if he can kind of give us some guidance as to whether there is anything we can potentially do,
Yeah.
considering whether that's an ordinance or a P and Z, approval stipulation or something. I'm not sure if that's even, but it's certainly worth looking into. I will say, in my experience, this has been one of the first that has risen to this sort of consistent level over an entire year. From what I understood, a lot of the similar sized cul-de-sac sort of single-family developments have had, some temporary mailboxes at the end of the drive if it's still a construction zone all the way up, and then those get taken down when the others go up. And I know this developer didn't do that in this particular case. And then again, I just got an email this morning, I think we all did, maybe as a reply and an update, that things did not make the progress they thought they were going to make with the postmaster. And there was this sort of 80% threshold they needed to get to. And so it's certainly something of a new issue from my standpoint, but certainly something we can look into a little more and see if there's something we can do to help encourage it.
We did have a similar issue in another town a couple years ago and went directly to the postmaster. And they set up temporary mailboxes for us and worked it through. Yeah. Yep.
We've had some significant turnover, as I understand it, with our postmaster here in Cheshire. I think that's been part of the issue. But again, we'll follow up and see if there's anything more we can do to try to get them to work with them.
Mr. Malone?
Just a question, I did see that 80% thing. Is that was the issue? I've never heard of that before.
It was new. I know I talked to the developer himself too, and he said he had never heard of it before. It was sort of self-imposed by the postmaster. I'm not sure if that's something a postmaster.
That's not a town criteria.
No. It was something the postmaster just came up with, I think, on their own. I'm not sure if it was rooted in anything else.
And it's not like they can just go to the Cheshire Post Office to pick up their mail either, right?
That has become, there's been operational changes at the Cheshire Post Office, I'm learning through this process, where that is the case. A lot of the mail sorting that used to happen there behind the counter, for all of us that have been here, it doesn't happen there anymore. I think it's happening in Wallingford and Meriden. So there was a time that some of those residents not getting their mail were having to go to either Wallingford or Meriden just to pick up their mail, which seems ridiculous to all of us. But that was compounding the problem. It wasn't like we had a full-fledged, full-service post office that at least you only have to drive to the center of town and just get your package. So that certainly has exacerbated it. But yeah, it's new, as I think it is for all of us as an issue, and something that if there's anything we can do to influence it and help, for our residents and future residents, I'd love to do that.
Seems like something that we at least, if we had kind of a policy in place, we could at least give that to the postmaster and say, this is what we'd like to see happen. And however many times that postmaster turns over, at least there's something with
there's
their
something on the
office
books, yeah.
this is what we'd like to see,
Are we good then? Seeing nothing else, I'll accept a motion to go into executive session to include from the audience, Mr. Martelli, and then everyone else at the dais. We don't have any action coming out, so you may be excused unless you have some, some desire to stay a little bit later tonight, or, yeah. So I'll accept a motion, and Mr. Walsh and Ms. Pearson, all those in favor? We are in executive session with no action following. Michael, that includes you, no action, so welcome back and hope you're feeling better.